before June 25, 2025, something inside you must awaken, not because the world demands it, but because your soul is quietly urging you to return to what is real, what is eternal, and what is right. This message is not a prediction, it's a divine interruption, a spiritual alarm clock meant to jolt you out of the noise, the distractions, and the illusions that have lulled humanity into spiritual sleep. Whether you're lost in success, buried in failure, or stuck in survival, this is your final call to remember who you are, why you're here, and what's coming. This isn't about religion, it's about reality. God's reality. And the signs are no longer subtle. If you ignore them now, you may never hear them again. Watch this before June 25, 2025. This is your moment of reckoning. Number 1. The earth is speaking, and not in whispers, but in roars, tremors, and undeniable signs that pierce through the veil of our daily distractions. And the question is no longer whether it's speaking, but whether we are truly listening. All around us, the planet is convulsing with a frequency that no longer feels natural. Volcanoes erupting in chains, floods washing away cities, temperatures breaking records, and the seasons no longer respecting their boundary. But these aren't just climate anomalies or ecological coincidences, they are sacred signals, divine codes embedded in nature's fabric, desperately trying to call humanity back to alignment. We have treated the earth like a machine we could exploit endlessly, rather than the living, breathing temple it truly is. And now, that temple is sounding the alarm. The fires that rage through forests are not just burning trees. They are burning away our false sense of permanence. The oceans rising are not just about polar ice, they are reminders that we are out of emotional and spiritual depth, drowning in our own ignorance and greed. Each earthquake shakes more than soil. It shakes our illusion of control. Every natural disaster is more than nature. It is a mirror of our collective spiritual chaos. The earth is alive, connected to the divine, and when its caretakers, the humans, fall out of rhythm with the divine will, the earth begins to echo the imbalance. Ancient cultures knew this. They listened to the wind, they honored the soil, they spoke with the stars. But in our modern world, we've traded sacred listening for artificial noise. And now we've forgotten the language of life itself. The birds fly erratically, the bees vanish silently, and we don't ask why, we just scroll. We pave over the sacred, we poison what feeds us, and then wonder why we're sick, lost, and disconnected. The earth is not angry, it's crying. It mourns our spiritual deafness. And these cries are not curses, they are compassion. They are warnings gifted in the form of weather, landscapes, and shifting energy, hoping we'll wake up before it's too late. Look closer. Droughts in one part of the world, while storms batter another. This imbalance is not random, it's revelatory. The earth is showing us that when man loses inner peace, nature loses outer balance. Everything is connected. When we pollute the earth, we pollute the spirit. When we neglect creation, we rebel against the Creator. This is not politics. It is prophecy, unfolding in real time. If the earth is groaning, it's because humanity is out of tune with its original purpose. We were never meant to dominate. We were meant to dwell, to steward, to protect, to live in harmony with the divine ecosystem that supports us. The point is, repair. That is, so now the earth speaks louder, more urgently, because time is compressing. It's not just about saving trees, it's about saving souls. Every natural sign is a message encrypted with spiritual instruction. Slow down, turn back, return to gratitude, honor what you've taken for granted, and most of all, listen. The earth is not just a place we live. It is a sermon preached daily in sunrises and storms. And in these final warnings, the earth isn't just speaking to the collective, it's speaking to you, your inner storms, your internal droughts, your emotional earthquakes. These mirror the world around you because you are part of it. The call to healing is not just ecological, it is deeply personal. You must reconnect, you must reawaken, you must remember what your soul knew before distraction numbed it. Sit in silence with nature, walk barefoot on the ground, breathe in the wind with reverence and ask, what are you trying to show me? Because when you listen, not just with your ears but with your heart, you will realize that God has always been speaking through the earth. The earth is the original scripture, the sacred scroll that never stops unfolding, and now its pages are burning, flooding and shaking, not to destroy, but to awaken. Don't ignore the signs. Don't wait for a louder disaster to humble you. The earth is not our enemy, it's our ally, our warning, our teacher. And right now it is speaking with urgency, with love, and with power. The only question is, are you finally ready to listen before the last word is spoken? Number 2, silence is the new warning siren. In an age where noise is constant and distraction is worshipped, silence has become the most alarming sound of all. A sound that pierces deeper than sirens, louder than chaos, and more revealing than words. Yet tragically, it's the one thing most people run from instead of running to. Silence is no longer just a quiet moment. It has become a divine siren, a sacred interruption from God, warning those who still have ears to hear that something is off, something is missing, and something must change before it's too late. In the silence, your soul speaks, your conscience echoes, and divine truth tries to break through the surface of your busy, distracted life. But for many, silence has become uncomfortable, almost unbearable, because it exposes the noise within, the unresolved pain, the unhealed trauma, the neglected purpose, and the spiritual void we try to mask with constant scrolling, endless talking, and artificial stimulation. We are addicted to noise because noise helps us avoid the truth. But truth doesn't shout, it whispers. And when you silence the world, you finally start hearing what God has been trying to say all along. Not through media, not through people, but directly to your spirit. And yet, because silence doesn't entertain, people overlook its power. But make no mistake, spiritual silence is a siren of the soul. When you feel disconnected, when you no longer hear inspiration, when your prayers feel like echoes, when your dreams feel distant, it's not because God has gone silent. It's because you've become too loud in worry, too loud in comparison, too loud in chasing what doesn't matter. The silence isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's the divine pulling you away from the crowd to cleanse your perspective, to recalibrate your direction, to humble your ego, and to reintroduce you to your purpose. Think of it, every major transformation in the lives of prophets, warriors, and messengers began in silence, in the desert, in the wilderness, in the stillness where there was no applause, no followers, no spotlight, only the raw presence of the divine and the honest confrontation with self. And today you too are being called back to that place, that sacred silence, where truth lives, where clarity is reborn, where power is refined. If you can't find 5 minutes to sit in silence without reaching for your phone, something is deeply wrong. Because silence is not empty, it's full of answers, full of warnings, full of instructions, that can no longer get through the noisy traffic of your mind. Have you noticed how the more disconnected we become from silence, the more anxious, directionless, and reactive we grow? That's no coincidence. God designed silence to be a sanctuary, a retreat for the soul. And when we abandon that sanctuary, we also lose peace, discernment, and divine alignment. Silence is where God downloads vision, wisdom, and correction. It's not the absence of sound, it's the presence of spirit. That's why the enemy of your destiny will always try to keep you busy, keep you noisy, keep you distracted. Because if you ever slow down long enough to sit in silence, you'd realize just how far off track you've drifted. And even scarier, you'd realize how close God still is. Waiting, watching, whispering. In fact, silence, when doors close without explanation, when people leave without warning, when plans fail despite your effort, that's silence sounding the alarm, telling you, look deeper, go inward, shift your direction. But instead of listening, we often panic, complain, or numb ourselves with more noise. And that's the danger. When you ignore the silent warnings, life eventually gets louder through crisis, heartbreak, or loss. But those loud events could have been avoided if we had responded to the silence when it first came knocking. Silence is not your enemy, it is your early warning system. It's where the spirit of discernment sharpens, where intuition strengthens, and where divine strategy is downloaded into your life. Don't wait until silence becomes suffering. Create space now to be still, to listen, to journal, to pray, not as a luxury, but as a spiritual necessity. Every morning, every evening, even 5 minutes of undistracted silence can realign your soul more than hours of noise ever could. And in those moments, you realize the answers you were chasing were always waiting in the silence. The healing you were begging for starts in the silence. The strength you thought was gone gets restored in the silence. And most importantly, the voice of God, unfiltered, unedited, unmistakable, still speaks there. So stop running from silence and start running into it. Because in this hour of spiritual urgency, silence is not absence. It is warning, it is wisdom, and it is your invitation to return before the next alarm sounds. Number 3, the collapse of false idols. We are living in a time when the collapse of false idols is not just imminent, it is already underway. And if you look closely, the cracks are everywhere. In celebrity culture, in politics, in financial systems, in social platforms, and even in the masks people wear to appear perfect, successful, and in control. Yet behind it all is a divine shaking, a spiritual dismantling of everything built on ego instead of truth, on pride instead of purpose, on illusion instead of integrity. For too long, humanity has bowed to the golden calves of modern life, worshipping fame, glorifying wealth, chasing status, and crowning comfort as king. Forgetting that anything exalted above truth eventually becomes an idol, and every idol not rooted in the divine must fall. We trusted in titles more than character, in influence more than wisdom, in brands more than values, and in people more than principles. But now, the illusion is unraveling. The celebrities once idolized are now exposed as human, broken, and lost. The billionaires once envied are now panicked, desperate to preserve a world they helped break. The leaders once praised are now questioned, their masks slipping, their motives revealed. Even social media, once worshipped as a gateway to purpose, is being seen for what it truly is: a mirror of insecurity, a machine of comparison, and a distraction factory designed to keep your eyes off your soul. But make no mistake, this collapse is not chaos. It is cleansing. It is not destruction. It is divine order returning to a world that has drifted too far from its creator. When we elevate anything above the source of life, that thing becomes a counterfeit God. And God, in His mercy, does not allow His people to build their lives on lies forever. So He lets the idols fall. He allows what we clung to so tightly to break, not to punish us, but to free us from the chains of illusion, from the prison of pride, from the shallow comforts that numb us from our calling. Because the truth is, many are more heartbroken over losing idols than they are over losing their identity. People mourn the fall of celebrities more than the collapse of their own moral compass. But this spiritual season is designed to reawaken what truly matters. You were never meant to worship people, platforms, or possessions. You were meant to live in truth, grounded in purpose, connected to the divine. The collapse of false idols is a spiritual reboot, a reset that removes the counterfeit so the authentic can rise. And now is the time to examine your own life. What have you made into an idol without even realizing it? Is it your image, your bank account, your relationships, your title, your influence? Even good things can become idols when they take God's place in your heart. And if you don't willingly surrender them, life will eventually strip them away, not because God is cruel, but because He loves you too much to let you build your soul on sand. This is why we're seeing global systems unravel, because they were built without wisdom, without humility, without divine alignment. Greed was the architect, pride was the blueprint. And now we are witnessing the inevitable. What was built for ego cannot withstand truth. The empires are falling, but it is not the end. It is the beginning of something purer, something eternal, something real. And this moment is your invitation to participate in that beginning. But you cannot bring idols with you into this next season. You must let them go. You must release the illusions that promised joy but delivered emptiness. You must stop bowing to the expectations of a world that has no idea who you really are. Tear down the altars you built in the name of success, validation, and image, and return to the altar of truth, humility, and surrender. Because the only thing that will survive this shaking is what's rooted in the divine. When everything else collapses, what remains is what was real all along: your soul, your faith, your purpose, and your connection to the Creator. That is the treasure, that is the anchor, that is the truth the idols try to distract you from. But now the distractions are being removed and you must choose. Cling to what's falling or rise with what's eternal. The collapse of false idols is not the end of your story. It's the cleansing of your foundation, the correction of your path, and the mercy of God pulling you out of illusion and back into light. So don't mourn the fall of what was false. Celebrate the rise of what is true. Because when the idols fall, the soul stands free. And only then can you walk boldly into your divine destiny, unshackled, unshaken, and unafraid. Number 4. Time is being compressed. Move with urgency. Time is no longer what it used to be. Days feel like hours, weeks blur into moments, and the years seem to vanish with a blink. Not because you're aging, but because something far deeper and more spiritual is happening. Time is being compressed, condensed by divine design, urging your soul to wake up, rise up, and move with urgency before doors that were once open are sealed shut forever. You can feel it if you're honest. An invisible pressure, a sense of spiritual acceleration, a knowing in your gut that you can't afford to waste another year, another month, not even another day, living out of alignment with your calling, trapped in toxic cycles, chasing things that don't matter, or putting off what you were born to become. This compression is not meant to scare you. It's a mercy disguised as pressure, a divine countdown urging you to stop delaying your healing, your obedience, your purpose, and your power. The things you thought you had time for are no longer guaranteed. Not because God is cruel, but because the season of delay is over. Too many people live like they have forever, clinging to comfort zones, entertaining distractions, drowning in indecision, and ignoring that soft whisper inside that keeps saying, "Now is the time." You cannot procrastinate your purpose and expect peace. You cannot delay your growth and still expect divine favor. You must move, not with anxiety, but with urgency, holy urgency, the kind that understands that every breath is a blessing, every opportunity a door, and every moment a miracle you may never get back. This is why certain things feel more intense lately. The dreams you keep having, the restlessness you feel, the way time seems to escape your grip. It's all divine compression meant to awaken your urgency. Opportunities that once took years now come and go in days. Decisions that used to feel optional now feel life-altering. Relationships that once drained you are crumbling quicker. And the inner calling you used to ignore is now thundering in your spirit. That's not coincidence, it's compression. And in compressed time, clarity either elevates you or your excuses eliminate you. You don't get to carry dead weight into divine acceleration. You have to choose. Keep making excuses or make the leap. This is why alignment matters more now than ever before, because in compressed time, delays are dangerous. The time to forgive is now. The time to act is now. The time to break free from what's holding you back is not next year, it's this very second. And yes, the fear is real, the doubt is real, but neither are more powerful than the divine push that's been placed inside you. Don't wait for the perfect conditions, they won't come. Don't wait for applause, they won't matter. Don't wait until you're ready. Ready is a lie your comfort zone tells you. Destiny honors the bold, the obedient, and the aware. Look at the world around you. It's not just your life accelerating, it's everything. Technology, culture, politics, crisis, everything is speeding up because the window is shrinking. The old way of living, slow growth, passive waiting, mindless routine is being burned away. This is a time of spiritual quickening. And those who don't move with it will be left behind, not in geography, but in purpose. You must be willing to sprint where you once walked, to leap where you once lingered, and to trust where you once doubted. Time is not your enemy, it's your test. What you do with this sacred compression determines who you become on the other side. Do you want to look back and regret the moments you wasted being afraid to act? Or do you want to stand boldly in your future, knowing you moved when it mattered most? The clock isn't just ticking, it's collapsing into concentrated divine moments. And if you keep waiting for more time, you'll miss the season entirely. Stop saying someday. Stop thinking you'll start tomorrow. Stop believing you have all the time in the world. You don't. You stop believing you have all the time in the world. You don't. What you do in the next few months could shape the rest of your life. Move now. Speak now. Create now. Forgive now, build now, believe now, because heaven is watching, waiting to respond, not to your plans, but to your urgency. Destiny does not wait for the passive. It partners with the prepared. It flows through the focused, and it rewards the faithful. Time is being compressed, not to crush you, but to crown you. If you're willing to move with urgency, Walk with faith and run with obedience before the hourglass runs dry. Number 5. The separation has begun. In 750 words, in single paragraph. The separation has begun. Not a political one, not a social one, but a deeply spiritual divide that is sweeping silently through families, friendships, communities, and even within individual hearts, drawing a clear and undeniable line between truth and deception, light and darkness, obedience and rebellion, purpose and distraction, and those who are awake versus those still hypnotized by the illusions of this fading world. You can feel it even if you can't explain it. Something is shifting, something is sorting, and something sacred is unfolding right before your eyes, demanding that you choose who you are, what you stand for, and what direction your soul will ultimately travel. This isn't just about belief systems. It's about alignment with the divine, about moral clarity, about spiritual integrity. In a time when compromise is everywhere and truth is being distorted for the sake of comfort and convenience. The separation isn't always loud. It begins quietly, internally, as you start to notice that certain conversations no longer feed your soul, certain people no longer recognize your growth, certain environments no longer feel like home, and certain habits no longer align with the frequency of your higher calling. This is not a rejection, it's a revelation. God is removing what can't go with you into the next season of your life. Not to isolate you, but to elevate you. Not to punish you, but to purify you. And though it may hurt to let go, what's on the other side of obedience is clarity, peace, and divine protection. The wheat is being separated from the chaff, the genuine from the artificial, and those who walk in humility from those still ruled by pride. The time of blending in is over. You cannot be half awake, half committed, half obedient, and expect full favor. This season is demanding full surrender, full attention, and full alignment with the truth that God has placed in your spirit. Yes, you will lose people. Yes, you will be misunderstood. Yes, you will feel like a stranger in familiar places, but that is the price of transformation. Separation is the prelude to elevation. When God begins to separate you, He is preparing to anoint you. And if you resist the process because you're afraid of loneliness, you'll miss the blessing reserved for those bold enough to walk the narrow path. This is why so many relationships are dissolving without drama, because the spiritual frequencies no longer match. The conversations feel forced. The connection feels strained. That's not coincidence, it's confirmation. The separation is not always external. Sometimes the biggest split happens inside of you, as your old self and your new self battle for control. The part of you that craves approval clashes with the part of you that knows the truth. The part of you that wants to stay comfortable fights against the part of you that's being called to rise. But make no mistake, the separation is not optional. It is happening with or without your permission. And the longer you resist it, the more painful it becomes. This is the time to choose. Not just in words, but in actions. Not just in public, but in private. Who are you really? What do you truly believe? Who do you serve when no one's watching? Because God is not separating based on appearance. He is separating based on authenticity, based on fruit, based on obedience. And the divide is widening fast. Look at the world. Those who stand in truth are becoming bolder, while those who stand in deception are growing more hostile. Neutrality is no longer possible. You will be forced to pick a side. By your choices, by your character, and by your courage. This is not about judging others. It's about discerning what serves your spirit and what poisons it. You're not better than anyone for walking away. You're simply answering a higher call. And yes, it may feel like loss at first, but it's really liberation. Every time you honor your inner knowing, you are stepping deeper into alignment with your divine assignment. The path is narrowing, but that's a good thing. It means you're being refined, prepared, and trusted with more. But you cannot carry old baggage into a new realm. The separation is not cruelty, it is clarity. It's the pruning before the harvest. It's the silence before the sound of breakthrough. And if you can trust it, embrace it, and stay faithful during it, you will come out stronger, clearer, and more spiritually aligned than ever before. So don't fear the separation, bless it. Don't chase what's leaving, release it. Don't mourn what's shifting, trust it. Because when God separates, it's always to elevate. And what He removes, He always replaces with something greater, purer, and destined to help you fulfill your call. Let the separation do its work. Your future depends on it. Number 6. Divine protection requires divine positioning. Divine protection is not automatic. It is sacred, conditional, and deeply connected to divine positioning, meaning you cannot live however you want, go wherever you please, entertain whatever feels good, and still expect to walk under the full covering and favor of God. Protection follows purpose, not convenience, and in this urgent spiritual hour, you must understand that where you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically determines what you are shielded from, what you are exposed to, and what supernatural help can reach you. Too many people quote promises of protection while living in rebellion, while ignoring conviction, while staying in relationships, environments, and cycles that God has already asked them to leave, and then wonder why the peace is gone, why attacks increase, and why prayers seem unanswered. But the truth is sobering. God does not cover what He did not call. And if you are out of alignment with His instruction, you are outside the borders of divine defense. Protection is not just about being safe from harm. It's about being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing under the right authority. And when you step outside that placement, even unknowingly, you become spiritually exposed, vulnerable to attack, distraction, and delay. This is not meant to instill fear. It is meant to awaken you to spiritual laws that cannot be bypassed, no matter how sincere your intentions are. Divine positioning is not always comfortable, and it often demands separation, discipline, and obedience that feels like sacrifice, but it is always for your benefit. Because protection in God's kingdom is not passive, it is activated through positioning. And that positioning is secured by purity, prayer, and persistent obedience. Think of the greats. Noah had to build the ark exactly as instructed, not according to preference, but according to divine blueprint. And when the rain came, only the ark that was aligned survived. Lot had to physically leave Sodom. God didn't protect him in the city. He protected him through obedience to leave the city. The Israelites had to put the blood on the doorposts to be spared from the plague. It was positioning, not proximity, that kept them safe. In each case, divine protection was present, but only accessed through exact obedience. And the same applies today. You cannot afford to flirt with disobedience, to delay a calling, to resist a conviction, and still expect protection as if it's a guarantee. It's not. The same God who covers also corrects. And His correction is an invitation to reposition yourself back into the shelter of divine favor. If you've been feeling overwhelmed, attacked, or exhausted, ask yourself, am I still standing where I was told to stand? Have I drifted from the place God last confirmed for me? Am I still aligned with what I know is right, even if it's difficult? Because sometimes we step out of God's plan, not in rebellion, but in distraction or emotional reaction, thinking we're protecting ourselves by taking control, but in reality, we're removing ourselves from His protection by stepping into territory He never assigned. Divine positioning often means staying in the fire longer than you'd like, holding your tongue when you want to fight back, staying planted in a season that feels slow, or walking away from something you deeply desire. Because obedience is not always logical, but it is always spiritual. And when you remain in position, spiritually postured, emotionally surrendered, mentally focused, you don't just walk in protection, you walk in unshakable peace, because you know you're exactly where you're meant to be. So this is the time to assess everything: your relationships, your habits, your choices, your environment, your posture of heart. Because if even one piece of your life is out of alignment, it can become a point of vulnerability, a breach in the wall of your spiritual fortress. But here's the grace. God is always ready to reposition you. He's not looking for perfection, but for your willingness to be realigned, to humble yourself and to say, God, if I'm not where you want me, move me. If I've drifted, draw me back. If I've resisted you, forgive me and reposition me under your covering. That prayer unlocks supernatural intervention. That posture reactivates divine protection. That humility places you back under the shadow of the Almighty.